Hi, everyone. This is CricketSong with Lunar Wisdom, and you're watching another episode of Wine, Witches, Witchcraft. And I'm here today with Renee Yin, my co-host.
Hello.
And tonight we have a guest with us who has been on a previous episode of Wine, Witches, Witchcraft, and who is returning. Everybody say hello to Cole.
Hello, everybody.
Yay. We're so happy to have him back. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun tonight. Hi, everybody in the chat room. We had a nice group already in there waiting even before we went live. So I want to say hello to everybody. And tonight I am drinking a Merlot, a California Merlot barefoot. That's what I'm drinking tonight. What are you guys drinking?
A Del Poggio Moscato.
Moscato.
I am drinking some cheap wine again. Oak leaf.
Oh, that's some cool stuff. I love oak leaf.
It's good though.
I got barefoot. Barefoot's I think $6.99 a bottle. So
yeah, that's about how much this one was.
Yeah, see, so whatever.
Hey,
I said my husband,
but this is still a very cheap wine. It still was like for the big bottle is $10. Let's be.
Oh yeah, hey. I sent my husband. I said, "Oh shit, I need some wine tonight, honey. Can you go get me a Merlot or something red, but not do not get me Chianti. I do not like Chianti." And he came back with barefoot. And I'm like, okay, it's Merlot. It'll do.
My favorite is Sweet Walter. Have either of you had that?
Mm-mm.
It's so yummy. I like sweet red blends though the most. I'll drink other things, but sweet red is always my favorite.
I don't like sweet red. I don't like sweet wines. I like dry. I like dry wines.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I love ports.
Ports. James is drinking Pinot Noir. And Skittlecat, hey, Brittany, she's drinking Mike's Hard Watermelon. Oh, that's yummy. All right, so what's on the agenda tonight, everybody? If you guys in chat have questions for Cole, for Renee, for me, for all of us collectively, please feel free to ask. We're here to answer your questions. But in the meantime, we can just be, hey, everybody. Hi, the Magician and the Empress 1111. What do we want to talk about?
We wanted to talk about Lovecraft stuff.
Lovecraft stuff. Yes, let's talk about Lovecraft stuff.
So what have you done? Like, have you used Lovecraft stuff in your practice, actually?
No.
No?
That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. Because it fascinates me. See, here's how I was introduced to Lovecraft's work. I knew who he was. Like, I mean, I went to college. I have a bachelor's in theater. However, I was an English minor. So, and for a while I was considering doing a double major in English and theater. So I took a lot of English classes. So I was introduced to Lovecraft through, taking, American short stories. But I knew of him, but I really didn't know a lot. I had read maybe one short story or whatever. But when I met my husband back in 2006, he is a huge fan of Lovecraft's works. And when he moved here, he brought all his collection of books with him, and he would talk about Lovecraft. He brought games with him, Call of Cthulhu, Arkham Horror. Oh my God, Arkham Horror. That takes forever to set up and then forever to play.
Yeah.
So Alex, my husband, was my introduction into Lovecraft, and he had me, you should read more, read this and read this and read this. So I read a bunch of that. And then we went to Necronomicon, the big Lovecraft conference in Providence, Rhode Island.
I want to go there.
It was great. We didn't go last year, but we went in 2014 because they have it every other year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I decided I was going to start writing a book, a novel, a fictional novel. So I even read more and more and more. But I had stumbled upon people on YouTube when I was doing research and looking at other people's thoughts. And Alex, my husband, was an editor of the Lovecraft e-zine online. So he was connected to a lot of the community, a lot of the people who were on and study Lovecraft. So I was really getting immersed into that sort of community through my husband. And I'm looking over here because his desk is over here, but he's not sitting there right now. But so that's how I got introduced to it. So I was doing research and I came across some people on YouTube who actually incorporate the old gods into their practice. And that intrigued me. And then when I realized you did too, I was like, hey, I can have a conversation with him about it. So I'm really interested in hearing how you incorporate. Do you? Well, I know you and I spoke just a few minutes ago about Nyarlathotep, but do you use any of the other gods from Lovecraft's works?
I'm not as super into the Lovecraft mythos as much anymore, but it's still prevalent in my life. I still work with Nyarlathotep, and like he's still an energy in my life. So nowadays, Nyarlathotep's kind of pretty much the only one I think I've interacted with. But there for a good solid like 6 months, I was doing daily rite to each of the 7 lords, which is Azathoth, Cthulhu, Shub-Niggurath, Nyarlathotep, Yig, and Yog-Sothoth, and who am I forgetting? There's one. I don't know, but there's supposed to be 7.
7. I can't even.
But yeah, I was doing a daily rite to one of those each day. Like one day of the week was devoted to one of those. And this is a system from Donald Tyson's books on the subject. And I've read a bunch of his books on how to incorporate like actual Lovecraft things into your actual spiritual practice. And I just found it fascinating because for the longest time, I think this was kind of like what kind of branched me into chaos magic. Was I heard about this and then I heard that people actually practiced it, like you said, and I was like, but wait, isn't that fake? And then that kind of made me enter the realm of like, what's fake, what's real, does it matter, and like, you know, stuff like that. And so that kind of helped me enter the realm of chaos magic. And then so I started using it in an actual practice, and they are very intense images, very, very intense. Lovecraft was a very scared man. And had a lot of mental stuff going on, I think. And he was terrified that one day mankind was going to discover something that would destroy us. And so a big concept in Lovecraft is madness and insanity. And so, especially looking at Nyarlathotep to me and my experiences with Nyarlathotep was he was the god or the old one of death, but also all the things that you disliked and tried your best to avoid. He was like the harsh reality that we all tried to ignore. He was, I mean, Lovecraft was very nihilist, but Nyarlathotep was the big proponent of nihilism in the mythos. He was very much like, you don't matter, nothing matters, everything. Like, he was very intense with that message. And, where was I going with this? I don't know. I slipped it. Went out of my head.
Now, if I remember correctly, from what and maybe I'm confusing them, maybe not. I don't know. Isn't Nyarlathotep the priest or the messenger of Azathoth?
Yes.
Okay. Because when I think of that, I think of. I'm just going to say it. I don't care what people think, right? I kind of think of Azathoth as God and Nyarlathotep as Jesus.
Huh.
It's just an image that struck me when I was learning about it. And it just kind of stuck where if I think of, you know, the messenger or the on earth manifestation of something beyond that we can't truly understand and comprehend.
Yeah.
And in a dark way, obviously, you know, because, you know, Nyarlathotep, like you said, is death. So instead of Jesus bringing life, Nyarlathotep is bringing death.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of like it. Well, not necessarily like, you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I like that too. That's an interesting symbolism. But the interesting thing about Nyarlathotep is, and Azathoth and that whole relation is, at least in the Donald Tyson system, he has, like, I guess kind of like a creation story, which I don't know if it's like based completely on Lovecraft. I will admit there are hardcore Lovecraft fans that probably know more about Lovecraft than I do. I've read a bunch of his stories, but I have not read all of his stories. So I don't know if this comes from something of a Lovecraft story, but basically Donald Tyson talks about how Azathoth and heaven and all this stuff existed for a long time, and it was very, very much light and positivity, and everything was perfect and beautiful. And then Nyarlathotep kind of came along and was like, but wait, we're not going anywhere. Like, everything's perfect and great, but where's the growth? What's the point of this? And so he kind of corrupted everything. And with corruption and pain and suffering comes growth and learning and all that stuff. So that's an
I don't know what what story that would have come from. I haven't read them all, but I read a pretty thick collection. I haven't read them all, though. I think my husband, I said, okay, so which one should I read first? And he pointed out ones in the table of contents. And I read all the ones he suggested I should read. And then I started going back and reading all the ones he said were eh. So I started reading all those too. But yeah, you're right. It's H.P. Lovecraft really talks about a lot of death and destruction and going mad and learning something, and that knowledge making you crazy, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that reminded me of what I forgot a minute
Okay,
ago.
yay!
So the whole madness aspect and insanity aspect, to me, especially with the beings like Nyarlathotep, I feel like the madness was symbolism of someone who saw Nyarlathotep, which symbolizes death and all those things of reality that you don't like, and rejected it. And they went crazy. And so that's kind of the madness or the insanity part of it. It's like, no, I don't want anything to do with that. Everything's good. Everything's great. You know, like, even though it's still there.
Yeah. It's like behind the sheen. It's the city under the water that's going to be revealed, and we're all going to be dead because the ancient gods don't need us for shit.
Yeah. That was another interesting concept, was that they don't really care about us that much.
No, they don't.
They're fascinated maybe, but they don't really.
Yeah, whatever. You're nothing.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I've always kind of viewed like most gods as that. And I've definitely had some very loving, deep, compassionate feeling encounters with gods and goddesses. But at the same time, they're so beyond me that I must be just like an ant. Like,
well, I mean, if we look at it in a spiritual sense, I think what it is, and this is just from my perspective, is, you know, the source of all that is, the source or the center of the energy is so detached from us in such a higher plane of existence. These God forms or these individual entities that we interact with are just a form of this higher source that really is so detached from us, that is a part of us, but is really detached from us. And we have these more personified understandings of different attributes to the greater source. So if we look at the ancient god, or even Azathoth, this big giant chaotic energy, and Nyarlathotep being the god form or the messenger of this other source, I mean, that's what I feel like is sort of, for me at least, how the gods or the pantheons of gods, how I relate to them, which is why like you, I can have a more personal interaction with that. But for me to try to go and comprehend the source, I can't, because it's beyond my human mind's comprehension.
Yeah, these are just all masks that we put on this source to try to comprehend it, but I don't think we will ever completely do it.
I don't think so either. We're limited by this physical form that we inhabit.
Yeah.
At least I think.
Now with the Azathoth thing again that were mentioned, like Azathoth is commonly called the blind idiot god. And in my opinion, he is very much an example of this madness and insanity that I'm talking about. He was not always like that. He, like I said, everything was pure, light, awesome, positive thing. And then Nyarlathotep corrupted everything. And Azathoth, seeing his creation completely destroyed, floored him. And so he ripped out his own eyeballs and he created 12 dancing gods, which in Donald Tyson's thing is the Zodiac signs. And he created 12 dancing gods that constantly encircle him, blowing trumpets and different instruments. And so, like, he's really, really mad and trying to distract himself from the reality that's constantly showed in his face, which is Nyarlathotep. And that's kind of how I view the whole madness thing in the Lovecraft mythos.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I didn't think of the 12 dancing gods as the Zodiacs, but that would, especially if we're talking, so if we're taking these ideas of these, Azathoth and Nyarlathotep as just, if we don't take them as personified and we take them as, archetype or whatever, as an image, yeah, in the sky with the constellations, with the dancing gods, I can see that. I like that.
Yeah. I kind of view the dancing gods as the distractions that we give ourselves to try to ignore the Nyarlathotep type energy. And I think they're needed, because if we completely focused on Nyarlathotep all the time, we would be sad as hell. But the 12 dancing gods could be like our cell phones, wine, like interactions with friends and everything. But it's like the things that fight away that thought of meaninglessness.
I like that. I like that. What book of Donald Tyson did you read?
Well, I've read a couple, but the main one that this all comes from is called The Grimoire of the Necronomicon.
Oh, I have that over here. Okay. Oh, I have.
You should read it then.
It was my husband's. He had the first one and that one too. There's two of them. Yeah,
I think so.
They're over there on my bookshelf. I gotta read them.
There's one where he writes in the personification of the mad
Arab, yeah.
And that one's called Necronomicon, The Wanderings of Abdul Azrad.
Yeah.
And then there's the Grimoire of the Necronomicon, which is the
So
one
I'll look at the Grimoire first.
Yeah. Yeah, I would suggest looking at the Grimoire first.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So what is y'all's zodiac sign?
I'm Aquarius.
I am a Pisces with a Capricorn moon and a Sag rising.
Trying to find what ones of the dancing gods zodiac correlation.
Oh, yeah. Tell me.
If I can find it. Meanwhile, let's talk about something else.
Okay.
Well, we have a couple of questions that I curated ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
You want to go? One of them, this first one's simple. Do you dress your candles when you're doing spell work? If you do so, with what items or things?
So I dress my candles mostly with oils that I've blended for the intention of whatever the spell is going to be. Sometimes I'll roll them in herbs. Again, it would be aligned with the intention of the spell. But even if I don't do herbs, I would do an oil.
I'm the same way. one of those people, I don't mind my candle catching on fire, but use safety. It, again, depends on the intention. It depends on how big you're going. So I like to coat my candles when I'm not doing the novena ones, but the actual, like, you know, pillar candles, I'll oil them up and I'll crust them up. And the whole point is those things burn fast when you do them that way. But I do that outside. When I'm doing my novena candles, I stab them all the way down 3 times, and then I'll take a dropper and put oils in and take a little stick and shove some herbs in there. But with what, like you said, it's depending if, you know, love, money, work, depends.
I don't really dress my candles that often. I did whenever I first started practicing witchcraft, just because it was something a lot of books talked about. But nowadays, I honestly don't do that much. I don't really have a reason for it. It's just
your candles are naked.
Yes,
you use naked candles, Cole.
Now I have dressed a candle somewhat recently, and it was with my blood. So,
yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, I use bodily fluids. I mean, but like I said, it depends on the intention. Yeah. You know, on which book. Anyways, never mind. We're about to go into oversharing. I'm like, wait. Those are inside thoughts or after the chat, because if I start pouring some stuff out, people are going to start doing some weird shit to candles that wasn't advised.
Right, so. Exactly, right?
Renee, shut the fuck about your candles. This is going to be a really broad question, but any advice, tips, experiences on deities or with divination?
Ooh, those are 2 very different topics.
I know.
Exactly. They're very general.
Okay, deities first. Deities, it depends on what, like what kind of advice this person's looking for. I'm assuming that they mean ways to connect with deities. My suggestion for that is start off by any real relationship that you have with someone. You know, start off slow. Don't be like, I want to marry you this first moment. Say hi, say hello, introduce yourself, and then, you know, start researching about them. Find as many stories and legends that you can find about them, and then maybe start doing some guided meditations. You can even write your own guided meditation on the deity, or even just thinking on the deity and see what unfolds in your mind's eye, and then just go from there. That's usually what I do with deities.
I think we have clarification. I think the person said deities within divination.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, lately I've been using Hecate. I know that she's really good with divination. A lot of witches use her for divination. I've not really had much experience with deities within divination.
When I had a matron and patron, I don't have one now. I don't have either now. But when I had a matron and patron, I would use my connection with them when I was doing divination. So, for example, if I was doing a reading for myself or someone else, within my ritual of preparation for doing the reading, I would, you know, meditate or cast circle and like hold a ritual to connect with my deity. You know, either my matron and patron or one or the other. But now that I don't have a working relationship with a specific matron or patron, I generally don't go to deity when I'm doing divination. I work with either my ancestors or my beloved dead in more of like a mediumship type way with tarot. So
I've done what you're talking about with my deities as well. I say like a quick prayer, even if I don't have the ability to do like the full-on kind of ceremonial thing. Just like God and Goddess or whoever I'm working with. Please let this reading be accurate. Let me help the person the way that they need fit, you know, stuff like that. And then while I'm doing the reading, I guess I just get impressions, but it's never like, tell this person this, signed Hecate. You know, it's like I just get impressions, and then after the reading, I'm like, okay, I assume that was you since I just prayed to you and asked you to help me.
For me, I'm similar to both of you, but at times, like in readings, I will use divination to go to deity if the querent has questions about their deity and I don't specifically work with them. But I just specifically work with tarot as tarot. You know, I'll use it for mediumship, but I really like, for instance, with the deities that I work with, I just, especially the deity, tarot is not really needed. And so those don't always correlate. Theirs don't, so.
Well, also, based off what you just said, it kind of depends on how you view deity, because a lot of witches view deity as just a version of you. It's a higher self version of you kind of thing, or a personification of nature. Like, you know, there's so many different ways to look at deity. So it just kind of depends on how you look at it too, is how you're going to work it into your divination.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have to fully agree. If you work with a god or a goddess, who may it be? And if you don't, and you have a chance to work with one, who would it be?
I really wanted to get into Thanatos. I think that's how you pronounce his name. The Greek god personification of death. I've been kind of pulling towards him lately, but at the same time, it's like it's just not there yet. Maybe in the future.
I work with a goddess. I brought this up before. Her name's Kali. Me and her fight a lot, and the god and also I work with a male entity that some would call deity, but is not a deity. So it's one of the Elegua, but I'm not like in a position to be like, this is who I work with, because that's not how that relationship works. I can get drugged for weeks in life for trying to like say who, but when it comes to wanting to work with deities, I don't really have one that I really would want to work with, if that makes sense. You know, you kind of work with people. Well, maybe that's me, but I kind of work with who I work with, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right now, I don't work, as I said, with a god or goddess. I was working intimately with Danu and Krenunos, but that relationship has sort of come to its conclusion. And I'm not looking to work with any specific deity right now. So there's not one I want to work with right now. I'm just working with the primordial forces of nature right now, and I'm cool with that, and that works fine for me. So, I mean, what I mean by that is, you know, I work with the energy of life, the energy of death, the energy of nature, the energies of the elements. I'm not looking to personify it right now. And like I said, that's cool with me. So
do you feel kind of weird whenever, because you said that like that work relationship has kind of ended right now, do you feel kind of weird when that happens?
It doesn't. No. Well, the first time, because when I first started, I was working with Bast and only Bast. I didn't have anybody else but Bast. But when I look back, I was getting out of a messy divorce. I needed to protect my children. I was like in a fierce, like, you know, so my relationship with her made sense. I was fierce mama kitty. And when that time of my life sort of died down, and I started working with other people, and I started pulling a group together, Bast sort of just kind of like slinked away, and Isis appeared, which at the time I'm like, I'm not going to work with Isis. At the time, everybody was working with Isis, and it was Isis, 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 Isis. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not working with Isis. But the more you pull away from a god or goddess that calls you,
the more they
the more they shove it in your face that, no, you girl, you don't have a choice. So
Isis had that exact experience with Hecate.
See?
Yeah.
So I wasn't really feeling badly that Bast walked away, because I was so hard trying to fight against Isis and Thoth and Anubis. The three of them showed up right around the same time. So I finally surrendered and worked with them. So I really didn't feel weird. But when they started sort of receding, when the coven dissolved and all that kind of went away, and Danu and Cernunnos started showing up, I was like, oh, it was almost like this fade out and fade into something else.
Yeah.
At first, it felt weird when nobody seemed to be showing up right now. You know, when Danu and Cernunnos started to like walk away, I kind of felt like, okay, all right, so who's next? I'm ready.
Yeah.
And then nobody showed up. At first, I was feeling a little okay. I had some hints or some visions that I thought someone was showing up, and perhaps she is, but I don't know. And you know what? It doesn't matter if she does or not. So I'm okay just doing what I'm doing, and I'm not necessarily seeking anybody anyway. So it's, I don't know. It is what it is. So
Yeah. See, I always kind of feel bad whenever that moment happens, I guess. Like, for example, I used to be super, super involved with Eros. And Eros revealed himself to me in a very in-your-face kind of way. I had never heard the word. I had never seen EROS put together before. Had no idea. This is back whenever I was working with Pan and Isis, but I never really connected to them. I felt like I just kind of picked them, and it didn't really like fit. It was more like, oh, I'm a witch, I need a god and goddess to work with, and I like picked them. And I mean, I was like pretty new to the craft back then. But then one day I was like, no, this isn't working. I'm just gonna be a witch and not have a specific god and goddess. I'm just gonna worship the divine female, the divine male. And then one day I was meditating and I heard the name Eros, and then I saw spelled out kind of on my closed eyelids EROS, and I was like, what was that? What just happened? And so I went and Googled that, and I was shocked to know that it was an actual word, and not only was it an actual word, it was an actual being. And then through researching Eros, I came across the name Nyx, which is the Greek god of night. For some reason, I work with a lot of Greek gods. I don't know why. If I had to pick a favorite pantheon, it'd probably be Egyptian, but I don't connect with them at all, really. But yeah, for some reason, it's a lot of Greek gods. But I always feel bad whenever it kind of ends. Like, I feel like, oh, I need to go visit that friend that I haven't visited in a while. It's that kind of feeling.
I had a really similar experience to Crickets, of how she was in a pretty volatile situation, and you know, a certain really strong feminine goddess came forward that's known for kicking ass and taking names, and all of a sudden we're not going to take it anymore. It plays in the background, and it's almost like you get an 80 montage of fix your life. And it was really empowering. And I just remember sitting there and I'm like, all right, we're not going to take this bullshit. I matter. And then I started really discovering, you know, like the divine feminine and what that meant. And holy crap, that's a part of that's within me. And you get this cool moment. And then they're like, all right, you're good. And then poof, they're gone. And you're kind of like, whoa, where'd my friend go?
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like.
It's just silence. And then there's almost like an empty loneliness that's left. And I remember when that happened with Freya, with the first main deity I was working with, that really kind of messed me up. I was kind of messed up for like, I don't know, for like a couple weeks. I was really sad. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to chill here. And then I got my ass kicked a couple more times, and another female deities came forward. But, you know, it was just for everyone that goes. I understand what you're saying. I feel really sad.
I feel the same kind of emotion with like ancestor spirits I work with, and like any kind of spirit or something. It's like you said, it's like, where'd my friend go kind of thing. Or it's like, I really need to hang out with that friend. I need to hit them up. I haven't hung out with them. Like, it's that kind of feeling.
Absolutely. Oh, Sherry, someone asked, what are ways to connect or commune with Cernunnos?
Okay. For me, it may be different than for you. For me, it was really sort of getting out into nature and really aligning myself or grounding myself within the land. So for me, it was like going out to the backyard and really just spending time, barefoot, or going out for a walk amongst the trees, really just, or on the beach. But I found that it was, I didn't associate him with water. So it didn't work as well if I was near the water. It worked more when I was like in the earth. And then for me, just meditating, I mean, finding, scents that allowed me to connect, and sounds, because I'm a big person that works with sounds that really call to mind images and, the idea that is associated, or the energy that is associated with Cernunnos. But it may be different for you, because I find there's not a lot about him as a deity. So it's really more about your feelings of the energy that is associated with him. With Danu, I could go and I could, read some of the Celtic mythology. Even though, ooh, bless you.
My face is gone. Sorry.
Even though Danu didn't have her own mythology within, Celtic myths, she's mentioned as the Great Mother. So there's a lot associated with her, and you can find other associations of where they came up with her name in other pantheons. But with Cernunnos, there really wasn't a lot for me to go on. So it was really more about how I felt of the energy, and when he made himself known to me through meditations and visions. A lot of my relationships are really built on that intimate connection, and not really a lot about research. But again, that's how I commune with my gods. It doesn't mean it's going to work the same for you.
I have to really agree with you on that one, because you're not going to, the way that I work with my deities almost will go against what you'll find in research. And if I said, hey, I work with my deity this way, I do this, this, and this, everyone that works with Kali will say, no, you're absolutely effing wrong.
You're not working with Kali, you're working with a different goddess. You're just calling her Kali.
It's just, and also,
who cares?
I know.
You're asking a chaos magician. I'm just gonna be like, who cares? Call it Kali if you want to call it Kali. I don't care.
In the end, it's still the primordial, divine feminine. Fuck it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
That's all she is. Okay, no, never mind. I take that back. That came out very wrong. She'll be pissed at me for saying that. But no, and a huge aspect of her is the specific, primordial divine feminine in its raw, not so pretty side. Mm-hmm. But, there's always those people that want to kind of poke at you and be like, do it this way. And it's like, After a while, I kind of threw the book out a long time ago.
Yeah. Chaos magicians don't take the do it this way message very good. We don't like that.
Y'all have plot pantheons. I mean, y'all literally were like, not only will we throw out the book, we'll make a pantheon from it.
Yeah.
Worship it.
In fact, that book that I suggested to Sherry before the show started, Condensed Chaos, an Introduction to Chaos Magic, he talks about the 72 demons of the Lesser Keys of Solomon. And he's like, you could just make up some if you wanted. He's like, you can just make your own book of spirits and kind of create that and blah, blah, blah. But kind of connected to that of what he talks about in the book, if you're wanting to get close to a spirit, spirits love compliments. They're very kind of Leo-like, in my opinion. And so whenever I'm trying to connect to a spirit or a god or any kind of thing like that, I try to think of what their realm of influence is. For example, Hecate is one of her things is showing you paths in your life, to go. And so if I experience something like that, I'll be like, thank you, Hecate. And it seems like for whatever reason, that makes her more prevalent in your life. And it can be that way. He mentions an example in the book that he whenever he would lose an object, he had this like little fairy statue, and he would go to the fairy statue and be like, "Help me find this object." And then when he would find it, he would go, "Thank you." And he eventually found that it became more powerful by doing that. And so eventually he'd be like, "Help me find this object," and it would be an instant thing. And he'd be like, "Thank you." And they really like thank yous. I don't know why, but they do.
Well, I think, I mean, honestly, if you think about it, I think it's that, you know, you're aligning yourself with the vibration of, you know, gratitude and appreciation. And the more you do that, you know, if you believe in what you give out, you're going to get back. So, I mean, if you're aligning yourself with that vibration of gratitude and appreciation, then you're going to find more opportunities and more times that you experience that. So I think that's the exchange that he's talking about. Yeah. At least that's how I perceive that.
Maybe it's just the super long about way that we witches use the law of attraction.
Exactly. Exactly.
Anything else in the chat?
Yeah, someone wants to know if Renee's going to talk.
I've been throwing in stuff this entire time. Jesus Christ.
You didn't talk through much of the Lovecraft stuff.
And
we had a discussion about the Lovecraft. It was really short about how little to nothing I knew about Lovecraft. I've never even read a story. So how was I supposed to? I'm not going to be like, yeah, Lovecraft. I hear he's awesome. He's great. And then pull something out of my ass. I'm not. Come on.
Speaking of which, I found those dancing gods that correlate with both of y'all's sign.
Oh yeah.
So for Aquarius, the 11th is named Archimadonon. Alone among the dancing gods, he has a body of perfect in every detail, like that of a god of the Greeks, but he is without compassion. His portion is Aquarius, the water carrier. That's interesting.
It is.
And then Pisces. The 12th is called Belilius. Her head is like that of a fish, arising from her shoulders directly. Her fingers and toes are webbed from swimming, and her skin is blue and moist. Shining silver scales surround her breast. Dark brown mottlings cover her back along her spine. Her portion is Pisces the fish.
You look like a fish, Renee.
Thanks. First it's a potato head, today it's
Oh my gosh. And then mine is Taurus. That's my sun sign. And the second is called Harmus, who is surnamed the Eye of the Fire, which glares into the hearts of all who commit acts of evil and chars them to black ash. He has the head of a black cow with a single great red jewel in his forehead and snarling jaws that drip the foam of madness. His portion of the heavens is that known as Taurus the bull. Very weird, distorted views of the Zodiac.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
It's a very fascinating, though. I like Donald Tyson's stuff. Now, I have been suggested by other occultists that he is slightly sexist, that he doesn't really like female occultists. I've not really noticed that, but then again, I'm a male, so I'm probably not paying attention to that as much as maybe I should be. But there are other authors who write about using the Necronomicon and Lovecraft as an actual spiritual practice who aren't Donald Tyson. Let me look up what someone suggested to me recently. But go on with other things.
Someone retracted their message. I thought you deleted someone's message in chat, Renee.
I haven't had to act out today.
No.
Oh, okay.
So what else is going? Oh, go ahead.
Kenneth Grant apparently also writes about the Lovecraft world too, and apparently the person that suggested it to me said that he's not as male oriented, so he might be worth checking out.
Okay, I have the Donald Tyson books on my bookshelf, so I'm going to read that one. I'm curious.
I liked it. I thought it was very good. I didn't really see a hint of sexism or leaning towards one or the other, but I don't know. Like I said, maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
I'll check it out.
Well, let me know what you think.
I will. I will. What else is going on in chat? Hi, Lady Ambrosia. Hi, Stephanie. Boo Hexy. Hi, Hellbound. We have a nice group out in there.
Hellbound says, "What is wrong with being male-oriented?" I don't think there's anything wrong with being male-oriented. I was just kind of portraying this other person's opinion on Donald Tyson.
Yeah. He was saying that someone told him that Donald Tyson's writing was very male-orientated and that the author did not care for female occultists. So that's what he was talking about.
But I didn't see that personally, but who knows?
Which element are you more close to?
Water.
Water.
Which is interesting because Taurus is supposed to be an earth sign.
Earth sign, yeah.
But my moon is Scorpio, which is very much water. And I often feel like Scorpio is such an intense energy that it almost overshadows Taurus sometimes.
What about you, Renee?
You know this. I work with elements like I work through seasons, so I'll just walk closer with one depending on what I'm going through in life. Right now, I'm walking with fire a little more closer than I am the rest of the other elements at the time. So, I mean, for me, it changes just like seasons do.
You're walking with fire. Fire, walk with me.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Anybody get that reference by chance? Fire, walk with me. Anybody?
It sounds familiar.
I think I'm dating myself.
Is it from a chant or something?
No. Anybody know what that reference is? Fire, walk with me? Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Maybe I've messed it up. What element am I closest to? Well, see, I used to think I was closest to water, but I think maybe air. I think I might be more with air. Hey, Noah.
Do you two know what your moon sign is?
My moon is Taurus.
Capricorn.
Ooh. Marilyn Manson is a sun Capricorn. I like Marilyn Manson.
So does my husband.
Do you two feel like your moon overpowers your sun? Or if you had to choose between the two, which one do you feel like fits your personality more? I know that there's a whole chart, but if you had to choose between sun and moon, which one do you feel like embodies you more?
Well, the moon would embody what you would feel, what you as a person would feel your personality embodies, because the moon is the sign, is a reflection of the soul. Yeah. So, because that's what it is. So, like for instance, your rising sign would be what other people see when they first meet you, which would be different than what's the deepest part. So it's like the rising, you first meet someone, I first meet you, Cole, you would be, you look like an Aries. Oh my goodness. You know, but then you would get to know you for a little while, then I'll see your sun sign. Then I get to know you really, really, really well. And then that's when your moon sign would come forward. So,
when you're drunk.
When you're drunk.
So mine's the Capricorn, which is very type A, organized, overplans everything, needs things to be a certain way, needs to be needed, you know, all those things. Fucking Capricorn. And I ran out of wine.
Oh no. Well, we're almost out of time. We have 10 minutes. Let's see.
Sometimes I wish the show was longer.
I know, right? I know. But an hour is good. Firestarter. No, that reference was not to Firestarter. Now I'm wondering if I even referenced it correctly. Now I gotta look it up.
Well, any tips for beginner witches?
No, I'm Fire Walk with Me. I was right with the reference. What was the question? I'm sorry. I was busy looking something up. Shame on the hostess.
Any tips for beginner witches?
Don't listen to anybody else. Make it your own. Make it your
Accurate.
own.
Yeah, accurate AF. But yeah, read.
Fuck them all.
Read. And a lot of people hate that response. I remember that I hated that response when I first started, but it is the best advice. Like, read so many books. Read as many books as you can get your hand on.
By different authors. Don't stick to one author. Don't say, okay, I'm only going to read Scott Cunningham. No, read different authors about Wicca and witchcraft. Don't just stick, I'm only going to read books on Wicca. No, and read some older texts. Don't just read all the modern stuff either.
Yeah. Read all kinds of things.
And then read the corresponding history books so you can see how certain times affect other times.
And have a very loose mind. Like, don't think that any author is a guru.
Right.
Oh my God. Don't think anyone's a fucking guru. Stay away from it. That's my number one. If anyone's selling you hope, run and stay away from gurus. That's my advice. Period.
Cherry Chapstick, if you have a question, we're willing to answer your questions. Otherwise, we discuss stuff and answer questions and have conversations about the questions. Yeah, that's what these videos are all about. Except next week, we're going to be doing short readings for people. But I'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I might show up for that.
Oh, you should.
The live chat.
Yes. No problem, Cherry.
Like I forget when
no
this
problem,
is
Cherry. I can send you a reminder, Cole.
Okay, yes, please do.
Cole, we're going to be starting in 15 minutes. Make sure you're the first one in chat.
like YouTube does that thing to where it's like, so-and-so went live, and I'm like, I click on it, and then it's like, but it's already done.
But it's all done. I know. That happens with me too.
That
happens with me too. If you ever go live, you let me know, because
Okay.
as long as I can be there. I mean, as long as I can be there, I'll be there. And so read, yes. People are agreeing with our reading. But don't fall into what other witches are doing. I agree. Don't feel you have to go out and buy a bunch of witchy shit. I agree, too. Don't do that.
I have a tendency to do that even today.
Do you?
I am dramatic and love tools and like the whole acting part of magic. I love that. I love ritual. I love altars. I love incantations. Like, I love the whole scene. I love all that stuff. And I know that like so many experienced witches preach, oh, you don't need tools. You don't need all this. And I get that. You don't. I agree. But I like them.
And that's more than enough. If you like them, it should be something you like.
Yeah, I agree. Well, so I guess I should let you all know that next week we have Aaron Lozano is going to be on the show with us. He was on a few episodes of The Sacred Circle. He's a tarot reader. He's going to be on the show with Renee and I, and we are going to do very short, quick readings for people in chat. Like, each of us will either pull a card or share whatever message we're getting. And that's what we're going to do for next week's hour show of Wine, Witches, and Witchcraft. That's next week. And the only reason why we have that scheduled out is because I asked Aaron if he wanted to do it this week, and he was unavailable this week. Not that we didn't want Cole. We always want Cole on the show with us because Cole is cool. I'm Brian.
I am also a tarot reader.
Oh, and he's also, that's right. I forgot that you are. That's right.
Like, we could have done readings today and next week.
No, I don't want to do them all the time because then people are just going to show up thinking that's all we're doing. I know how people are.
I am actually really nervous for next week because you and Aaron are both professional readers and I don't read professionally. So it's just kind of like, okay, it's like Little League showing up for the Super Bowl. What's up?
Oh, shut up. Just shut up.
And I'm completely messing up the like the sports references because I know nothing about sports.
Honestly, for a second, I was like, I want to do one of those reading episodes with you, but I honestly don't envy y'all because, I mean, this might be different, but coming from someone who's vampiric, we used to have a Healers Give Back Day is what we called it at this witchcraft store that I used to work at. And we would give free mini readings to anybody that walked in and wanted one. And it was so draining. And it might be because I'm a vampiric person, but I was just always so exhausted. And like after maybe 2 or 3 readings, I'd have to go outside and be like, I need a minute. So I hope that y'all do great, and I'm sure that you will.
Fine.
But yeah.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
I'll just have an extra glass of wine next week.
That's right. We'll break out. We'll do.
And then all of a sudden it'll be like, so what happened in childhood? Renee, this is a short reading. Stop it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing.
That was the hard part.
Yeah, we're gonna have to set timers. That's what I do when I do readings. Are you kidding? Because when I used to do free readings, I would say, okay, I'm gonna do a free 15-minute reading, and people would take advantage of it. And pretty soon it was a half an hour. So I have a timer. So we're gonna do, and I'm gonna be a bitch about it. I'm gonna say, okay, Renee, time's up. Wrap it up right now.
Whoa. And then I'm gonna be like, okay, cool, drink break. I'm probably just going to get wasted next Thursday. That actually sounds really, you know why? Because it's spring break in my ISD. So
it is spring break. My son doesn't have college classes. My husband is taking a few days off. Yeah.
It'll be a party. So I guess it works out because it'll be a really chill week for work. Because there'll be nothing but cancellations on my end. So hey, why not? I read the best when I drink too much. Maybe. I'm kidding.
I'm thinking of doing like although now it wouldn't be spontaneous. I'm like every so often during the day if I have free time and my husband's not, working right beside me, I'm like I should go live. Just like do a spontaneous live stream and then I'm like, yeah, no one's going to be out there watching it. So I was thinking of doing one next week because it's spring break. Well, but then I'm thinking
it would be spontaneous if you didn't announce when it would be next week.
I know. Yeah, you think? Yeah, but I don't want to do it alone. I need to because who wants to sit here and hi, this is CricketSong. What's up? Who wants to watch that? I wonder if anybody's in the chat. Oh, look no one's in the chat. I don't know what I'm going to sit here and talk about to nobody. I mean, how boring would that be? That'd be like, yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. Anyway, so it's 8:59. The time is almost up. So next week, Aaron Lozano, we're going to do readings. I want to thank Michael Redden for being our official sponsor of Wine, Witches, Witchcraft. Cole, thank you for coming on the show. We're going to have you on again. I hope you're available again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he's going to be on. I think I'm feeling this wine now. I think
Cole, we promised you'll be on. I'm drunk.
You're still going to be on. Come on, stop it. What else did I want to say? Oh, I know I've said this, and I'm going to keep promoting this, but I'm going to do a video at some point on my channel. But The Witch's Voice, available on Amazon today. You can buy a copy today. It's available on Amazon. It's 75 poems. Some of them are illustrated by Nikita Mello. She's a friend of mine who has done some beautiful illustrations for some of the poems in this book that I've written. So yeah, go check it out. Go get yourself a copy. I'm also selling signed copies on my website at www.learnerwisdom.net. And if you want to find out how you can be an official sponsor of Wine, Witches, Witchcraft, or get some other wonderful rewards, go check out Lunar Wisdom's Patreon page over on Patreon. Information is down in the information section. And if you're not subscribed to Cole, go check that out. His information is down in the information section too. That's it. Thank you all for being a part of the live chat.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.